Hello and welcome back to STEAM with Steve. Today we're going to go through how to get our Ryze Tello drones to fly up and randomly choose to either go left or right and then do a little barrel roll and land. Okay, so this gives us a bit of randomness into our drone navigation, which is a bit of fun. And yeah, let's start and get on into it. So to do it, there's two objectives that we need to follow today. First of all, we need to understand the random library, which allows us to assign a random number. So in this case, we want to go left or right, so there's two choices. So we're going to need a random number of either 0 or 1 for it to go and make that choice. We then want it to follow an if statement, so an if-else statement, which is like a fork in the road. So you're either going to go left or you're going to go right based off the statements that you're going to write. This code is based on the original one that we've covered before. So this allows the drone to be connected to your computer using the DJI Tello PY library. And we're going to use the variable Maverick to represent this drone in the real world. So we're going to go Maverick is equal to tello.tello. That creates that link. And then we can connect to our drone from our computer using maverick.connect. Get the drone to take off, which is what .takeoff does, and then .land allows the drone to land. The next step that we need to understand is the first thing, which is the random. So as a good mathematician, I always like linking it back to dice. So with a dice from 1 to 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides on the dice, that allows you to randomly choose something, okay? And we're effectively doing this when we're using the random function in Python. And it's pretty simple. If we want to use the random library, we literally just go import random. So that imports the random library. And from that, we can then make a random number generator. So we're going to use the random library and going to draw from it a random integer between set ranges. And the way that we do that is with this line of code. So into number 1, we're going to make it equal to something from the random library. So we're going to go random.randint. So it's going to call that function from the library, like pulling it out of a book out of the shelf. And it's going to use the randint function, which means a random integer. And the random integer means from 1 to 6 inclusive. So it will choose a random number from 1 to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's exactly the same as a dice. So instead of physically having a dice there to roll, what you can do is use this function in Python and we'll do exactly the same. So with our bit of code, instead of 1 to 6, we're going to do 0, 1. And that allows us to have a choice of either going left or right. We're then going to use the if statement. So like I said, this is like a fork in the road. So you can either go left on the fork or right on the fork. Okay, so that's what an if statement means. So you're going to either choose this and do everything that goes along this path and turn this way, or you can go right and go this way. Now an if statement is pretty simple in Python. Looks very similar to the loop that we covered before, a little bit simpler, but basically there's two control structures at play here. So what happens here is it checks to see if this particular condition is true. So you might go, if number 1 is equal to 0, then do these statements, else do this. And that's the fork in the road. So if it's true, you're going to do these statements and go this way, else you're going to go this way instead. And that's pretty much all that it means. So if is a reserved word in Python, so that's why we'll shade into orange. The condition must be a Boolean expression, which is what we've covered before, and that must evaluate it to be either true or false. So if it's true, you're going to go this way, otherwise you're going to go this way. The snaky bite or the colon is a control structure that has been used, and as soon as that has been used, any of the statements underneath it that you want to be bound to it need to be indented. So as soon as you see the colon or the snaky bite, you need to see that the statements underneath it are indented. You then also have the else is a reserve word, and you will see that there is also a control structure afterwards with a snaky bite. So that means everything underneath this else statement else is bound and indented. So this is the statements that will be executed as the alternative option. So if the condition is true, these statements are executed, otherwise the other statements are executed. So let's jump on into the actual Python code and see what we can do and apply all this. So what you can see here is the standard code that we have for the Ryze Tello drone. So again, we still have the import DJI Tello PY from importing the Tello. We then create the Maverick variable that allows us to control the drone. We then have maverick.connect, maverick.takeoff, and maverick.land. So underneath the maverick.takeoff, we'll write the code that we want it to sort of complete. So what you'll see at the start, I'll write up here the import random, so we get all the random functions that we looked at before, the random integers. And then we're going to create a random number between 0 and 1. Now we're going to store this variable into Zero's variable called number1 or num1, and it's going to store a number of. It's going to allow us to have that choice of either going left or right by having it spit out a 0 or a 1. So we're going to write num1 is equal to random. So random library dot rand int. So it's going to pull that book out of the library, the rand int function. I'm going to type 0, 1. So the 0 to 1 inclusive. So it means it includes the 0 and the 1. Now down here we're going to actually use that if statement we looked at before, and we're going to have that choice. So it's either, if this is true, we're going to go this way. Otherwise, we're going to go this way. So that's basically what happens with this. And it's pretty simple to start an if statement. You literally just write if. So we'll go if, and then we're going to check to see if number 1 is equal to 0. So number 1 equals 0 because it's a comparison, and a colon, and then we do 4 spaces in, and then make maverick dot move left. So we're going to make him move 100 centimeters to the left, and then we're going to make it do a little barrel roll. So we're going to make it flip left as well. Else, as the alternative to that, we're going to make maverick move right. So we're going to go maverick dot move right 100, and then we're going to make maverick dot flip the barrel flip right, which will then do a barrel roll on that right hand side. And that's all the code that you really need to know to be able to make this work. And so what's going to happen, like I said, the random number is going to be generated at the very beginning. So it's either going to go 0 or 1. The drone's going to take off, and then it's going to look at this. So it's going to check to see if it was equal to 0. If it's 0, it means that it's going to be going left. Otherwise, is the alternative option, it's going to go right. So let's play that now and just see what happens. So this was the first attempt at trying to get the drone to take off. And what you can see is the code's there. I'm about to press the play button, and it's either going to go left or right. So this was the first attempt at getting the drone to fly and choose a direction. So you see the drone is taken off. It's either going to go left or right at this moment. And there it goes. It's gone right because remember it's like a mirror. Done the little flip, and then it's landed. So then this was the second attempt at trying to get the drone to take off, and let's see if it goes left or right this time. So taken off, drone's flying, it's gone right again, and then done a barrel roll, and then it's going to go and land. So as you can see, there was a bit of a pattern here. It's kept going right, which originally I was like, oh, did my code quite work? So we tried it again. So this was the third attempt at getting it to fly. Let's see what happened. So drone's taken off. It's going to go left to right. It's gone right again. Okay, done the flip. And then it's finally landed down. So at this stage here, I'm starting to question whether or not my code was right. I'm pretty sure it still was, so we had another go. So this was the fourth attempt at trying to get the drone to take off. And what you can see is we're going to see whether or not it's going to go left or right. So there's the drone. I actually ran around behind it so you can see that it's going to go left or right. And there it goes again. It's gone right. Done the flip. And then it's landed. So at this stage here, I'm starting to question my programming abilities and whether or not I was able to get this done. So this was the fifth attempt at trying to get the drone to fly and turn. Hopefully it was going to go left after 4 in a row where it went right. So the drone takes off. It's hovering. And finally, I can prove that I was actually a decent programmer. So it went left, did the flip, and then it landed down the bottom there, which was pretty cool. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show you. So we've learned 2 things here. We've learned how to use the random function from the random library, so creating a random integer between 0 and 1. and then using that information to choose an if statement. So it's either going to go left or right with that if statement, checking that number to see if it makes that decision. Hope you've enjoyed that and learned something along the way with these Ryze Tellos. There's heaps of stuff that I want to do with this. If you have any questions or comments or any ideas that you would like to see done with the Ryze Tellos, please leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed Steam with Steve. See you next time. Adios.